Believe it or not, your natural tendency to rise early or stay up late is at least partially determined by your genes. So if you wish you could push on through into the wee hours of the night or rise and shine before the break of dawn, but can't quite make it work, you know what to do. Blame your parents. Though keep in mind that any one sleep pattern is not necessarily the best. Each has its own distinct benefits and disadvantages, which we'll explain in this episode of the Infographics Show. The pros and cons of being a night owl versus a morning person. While 70% of the population doesn't really qualify as either early risers or night owls and gets up at some point in between, a majority of the remaining 30% like to stay up late, according to Aachen University research. Why are there some of us that seem destined to sleep, while others prefer to push on through? Some theorize that it's due to our survival way back in the day before we lived in houses with locks on each door and every window, out in the elements surrounded by danger. While some of us slept in darkness, others would have to remain alert to stand guard. Then, with the arrival of morning, those roles would shift. However, now in modern times, we no longer require such protection, and those who prefer to both go to bed and get up late are drastically out of sync with today's 9-to-5 society. Therefore, those who want and biologically need to stay in bed long after the workday has begun, but can't, may at times struggle. Proponents of the morning bird schedule argue that genetic predisposition or not, our bodies were intended to be functional during times of light and at rest in periods of dark. In fact, research performed by Dr. Phyllis C.Z. determined that it's critical for our health to get a source of quality light between the hours of 8 a.m. and noon, and not just later. This is because light helps you synchronize the internal functions of the body, including our circadian rhythms, which determine our energy levels. Thus, if we spend these critical hours indoors asleep, things can get out of whack with the function of our body. This negatively impacts metabolism and can in turn cause an individual to gain weight. It's also more likely that early risers will fit in a healthier and more balanced breakfast, as opposed to grabbing a source of empty calories while in a rush and on the go. Foods with protein can boost dopamine levels, which regulate stress, and vitamins and minerals will also give the mind and body the nutrition and fuel they need to operate their best. Those who eat breakfast only irregularly are also more likely to develop type 2 diabetes, and the most rushed of all who skip a meal altogether have a higher risk of developing coronary heart disease. Beyond this, those who are early risers are also more likely to find the time to work out on a regular basis before the day begins. Alternatively, many of those who intend to exercise later either never find the opportunity or become too exhausted by the end of the day. In support of this, studies have proven that those attempting to lose weight are more successful when they work out at an earlier time rather than later, as exercise is linked to lower blood pressure and cholesterol levels, as well as weight control. This is yet another factor in early risers being leaner and physically healthier than their night owl counterparts. Early birds also use more positive language in their speech, appear more confident with their body language, and are more likely to assert themselves than night owls. They're generally happier overall. This difference in mood is considerable. Research at the University of Toronto has shown that those who either get up at or before 7 were as much as 25% happier than those who rose at later hours. And this is not just a superficial happiness, but a deeper mental well-being. Experts suggest those who get up with enough time to relax before the start of the day feel fewer negative emotions such as stress. Stress triggers the release of cortisol, which causes feelings of anxiety. Also, once again, it's another factor that triggers the production of body fat and increase in weight. In addition to an uplifted mood, those who rise early are also less likely to procrastinate and are more proactive throughout the day. This may be because they have extra time to figure out what needs to be done during the day before they must actually do it. They also seem to be better at prioritizing what needs to be done in what order and at what time. Therefore, early risers' stress levels decrease while their overall productivity increases. Being proactive is also linked to better job success, career prospects, and salary. Further, bosses, according to the Journal of Applied Psychology, often look more favorably on employees who clock in early. That is, unless they're night owls themselves. This also transfers to school performance as well. Grades of morning people were shown to be higher by a whole GPA point, according to a study at a University of North Texas. Morning bird students in general are more likely to show up to class and not be late, as well as study their coursework than their later sleeping peers. Further, it's believed that since they typically go to bed earlier, they naturally avoid late-night behaviors that could negatively affect their academic performance, such as drinking and partying. Overall, early risers are less likely to use alcohol or smoke. Now, there are some drawbacks to being the first to rise. While both early birds and night owls showed similar performance on mental processing tests an hour after waking, those who got up earlier performed worse after 10 hours of being awake. After 10 hours, night owls were still capable and alert. Early birds' physical skills appear to be more time-sensitive as well. In a study of MLB player performance, those who identified themselves as early risers played better games before 2 p.m. Those who preferred to stay up late did better during games after 8 in the evening. However, the night owls played much better during off times than did their early worm peers. For example, at 3 p.m., which is after the best time for early risers and before the best time for those who slept in, those who get up later would show more skill. In other words, those who wake up sooner appear to have an inferior physical ability starting in the mid-afternoon that lasts for the rest of the day. Now let's delve deeper into the lives of those who thrive in the late-night hours. While we mentioned that morning people are more likely to excel academically, night owls have shown more promising results on memory, mental processing speed, and cognitive ability testing. This was no matter the time the tasks were performed. Further, another study by the London School of Economics and Political Science found that middle and high school students who had scored highest on indicators of intelligence went to bed and woke up later. Further still, night owl teens in a study in Madrid were better able to come to logical conclusions when given a series of facts. In other words, staying up late and sleeping in just might make night owls a bit smarter. That, or they're better at taking many different types of tests. As previously described, they also perform at a higher level mentally after being awake for longer and are better physically, at least in baseball, later in the day with superior off-time performance ability. However, there is yet additional evidence that they are physically stronger in other ways. A University of Alberta study, for example, looked at leg strength of its participants. While this remained about the same for morning people for all hours of the day, night owls showed a unique peak in strength in evening hours. This is due to increased activity of the part of the brain that triggers muscle movement combined with enhanced spinal cord stimulation. For morning risers, those two things never take place simultaneously. Beyond being a bit smarter with superior physical power, night owls are generally more creative as well. A study by the Catholic University of Sacred Heart in Milan found that they could easily draw pictures when told to only use curved or straight lines. Early risers had difficulty with this task and could barely get an average score. The reason for this may be that since they spend considerable time each day doing things differently from the rest of society, late risers are used to going against the grain and thinking outside of the box. Further, because they must find ways to still function despite an often conflicting schedule, they're experts at successfully navigating obstacles and developing on-the-fly solutions. They may also use the wee hours of the night while others are fast asleep to perfect their various skill sets and abilities. Essentially, those who go to bed later but due to a job or other obligation must still wake up at a reasonable time have more hours each day in which they're awake and may use this time to practice, improve, and learn. Night owls are also more likely to be open-minded and seek out new and exciting experiences or take a risk. Some believe that their ability to put more on the line allows them to seize opportunities as they present themselves, which may translate to greater on-the-job success. This may be why some research has shown that they make more money than those who get up earlier in the day. Unfortunately for those who thrive at nighttime, despite the benefits, there are disadvantages that the lifestyle can bring. Because of the way society is currently structured, most are prone to not getting enough sleep. Main hours for most essential activities are between 9 and 5, and so attempting to follow this schedule while also staying up late can result in problems. Among other things, it may leave people feeling continually exhausted and stressed from trying to do it all despite a lack of sleep. Further, those who stay up late often have more difficulty clearing their minds, even once they decide it's time for bed. When 700 individuals participated in a Brown University study, it was discovered that while 20% of early risers had insomnia, that figure was twice as high for those who preferred to postpone sleep. Chronic exhaustion doesn't help with emotional health. In addition, brain differences in later sleepers indicate they may be more susceptible to mental illness. For example, they have less white matter for neural communication in certain areas of their brains, which has been linked to the development of depression. Beyond this, having to force themselves to continue to function at all times when their minds and bodies would rather be asleep is also why some researchers believe night owls may also be moodier and have a lower sense of satisfaction. Their physical wellness is impacted too. Those who go to sleep much later who also have type 2 diabetes are more challenged to control their blood sugar and had higher triglycerides and levels of LDL cholesterol. The lack of early morning light, which is crucial to function of the body's internal clock, leads to issues among the general population as well. These include a greater risk of coronary artery disease, glucose intolerance, and metabolic syndrome. In addition to this, those who sleep later often exercise less often and are more likely to eat an unhealthy breakfast or skip it altogether. Further, many tend to eat a lot of their day's calories at dinner time or long after dinner is over. This all contributes to weight gain, which makes any health problems even worse. As science indicates, despite many night owl perks, being early to rise is better for one's emotional and physical well-being. It may therefore be tempting for some to try to change their habits to going to bed and getting up sooner. Unfortunately for many, this will not be an easy change, and research has shown that night owls forcing themselves to adopt early bird habits for some reason or another did little to make them happier. Compromising many night owls' efforts is the fact that, unlike early risers, they have a longer than 24-hour-long sleep cycle. This means that left to their own devices, they would go to bed later and later every day and also get up later than the previous day as well. In contrast, early birds naturally get up and go to bed around the same time. So by trying to adopt not only an earlier but a set daily schedule for their sleep, night owls are not just shifting their pattern, but drastically altering it as well. It is possible, but when you're in the middle of something exciting at 10 p.m. or cozy under your sheets in the early morning, you may wonder if it's truly worth it. You may just prefer to function as a semi-zombie most days and make up for sleep deficit following the end of the work week. What are you? A night owl, a morning bird, or somewhere in between? If a night owl, are you worried about your health enough to change? Let us know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other video called "I slept 3 hours a day for a week and this is what happened." Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.